Okay. Are we calling the Finance Committee meeting to order? I believe we have new members this year on the Finance Committee. You're a Finance Committee member this year or just on board?
On board.
Yeah, okay. All right, great. So the first thing we wanted to go into was the monthly financial reports. Any issues of concern? Anybody want to chat about with those?
Are you here at the first resolution?
Yeah.
Is that what you're, okay. The first finance related resolution.
Yeah, the first finance one.
Hi guys.
Point is 31.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
Any issues or anything in there? Questions?
No, everything looked good.
Questions from the peanut gallery? Okay, great. Budget transfers. That's the very next one, number 32. Is that, this isn't indicating any, it's just approving your budget transfers, correct?
Yeah, it's the standard ones. There's a couple of adjustments there. It looks like they total $3,000 in total.
Okay.
For all of them.
The highway fund, Jim's buying some stuff again, so.
Well, I just moved money around. We have enough money in the lines through the year, so we overdrew the machinery and snow removal, and we used repairs lines just to balance the budgets.
It's nothing too crazy there.
A lot of that was the road salt, right?
Yeah, the road salt, I think was the main indicator there, so. And 34, the transfer, what's going on with the consolidated water district there? That's just.
There was not enough money in the contractual to pay for the water we can purchase from the city of Canandaigua.
I think you brought
So
that
we
up.
moved water from service and maintenance over to expensive water purchase and to pay the utilities. So again, we took money from a line that had money left in it and then moved it over to a line that overran to balance it.
And then you've got here the highway fund purchasing snowplow truck with equipment. Are these some of the things you brought up last year that you didn't know when they were gonna be available kind of thing?
So this first resolution was a truck we purchased in 21 and we encumbered it in 22.
Okay.
And it's not a good policy to encumber 2 years in a row the same funds. So what we have done is we have allowed it to roll into unaccounted fund balance, and then we are reapplying it to the
Okay.
budget for this year. And what you're doing is you're going to increase the highway budget, but also use that same unaccounted for fund balance to offset those expenses so they equal out on the budget itself.
Got it.
Okay,
I'm probably gonna ask for you to explain that on Monday
Okay.
again, just so that people
sure.
know what's going on, so.
It's actually scary that Jim can explain.
I just sitting over here smiling.
He's
I'm like, oh
probably the
my
only
gosh.
highway superintendent in the county that can explain that, so.
I thought he did a
Pretty-
great job.
Well,
Great job, Jen.
thanks.
Jim's like, here's how we move
I
it.
know.
Well,
It just goes back in the pot
well,
and then we have to take it out of the pot
I've
again.
had a few people help me over the years,
Comfort
so
is, how many years have you been around?
14,
There you go.
so.
14
had
years
some-
of hearing encumbered, you've got it all figured out now.
Yeah, I've had a few people help me out, so. This one here is for the authorization to buy the pickup trucks. Now there are 2 trucks that are being purchased by Parks, but one of them could not be purchased last year because we were unable to order it. Okay, so we are, and is this one we're encumbering for next year? Or is this the one we're buying out of this year's budget? I can't remember, I'm sorry.
This resolution increases the appropriated
Okay.
fund balance. And increases the expense.
So this is the same exact procedure we're doing in 23 that I just explained for the plow truck. Because we didn't purchase it last year, we rolled the money over
Okay.
and we're putting the money in this budget to pay for it in 23.
So reappropriating, right?
Yes. This resolution was for a purchase of water meters. We did not successfully get the water meter grant. Again, we've tried twice for this grant. So therefore, we're taking unappropriated fund balance out of SW 500, which is consolidated, and we're putting it into a 200 line. Correct, which would be a capital line in the special water district to purchase the water meters we need to replace this year.
So that's within Canandaigua Consolidated.
It
right?
is,
Okay.
correct.
Any explanation why we're not getting the grants, or just they don't
You
feel
know,
like they
I
want
don't,
us?
I think part of it is our area is not necessarily in need for funds. But is what it comes down to is we don't score very well.
Yeah, I know.
But we've
I was
tried
just wondering if
twice.
they gave you specific.
Well, Doug did get specifics last time, and we rewrote it for the last year, and we still didn't get funding for it, so.
Is there different, I mean, are the two major water districts have different need levels at all? Or, I mean, is one a lower income area than the other? Are they pretty comparable?
So Canada Consolidated is in an area where
There's
money
a lot of
is,
very expensive homes, yeah.
but the median, but you're above the median average income for the most part, where Bristol's totally
It's on
separate.
income, not assessed value,
It's
right?
income.
Okay.
They know basically that the town of Canada was not necessarily hurting for money for its
So
residents.
some of the other districts don't,
Well, we only have two districts.
yeah.
So one district's consolidated,
And the
which
other.
is the large one, but the other one's Bristol.
Oh. well,
Okay,
Oh, because
and
Farmington's got it.
Farmington, Canada was separate from
Farmington, yeah,
us,
they're doing
correct?
their own, not us.
Right.
Got it.
So,
That wasn't connecting, got it.
and the purpose of replacing these water meters is they're either over 1 million gallons or they're over 10 years of age and the battery's set to expire. So that's how we're working on it. We did about 400 last year. We're gonna do 500 this year.
And how many do we have?
We have right now 2,800. But again, all 2,800 don't need to be replaced. I'm just trying to get probably half of them replaced throughout the district. So,
This resolution implies it, but I just want to make sure everybody's clear that understanding what we're actually doing with this is actually decreasing unassigned, unappropriated fund balance and then increasing the appropriated fund balance. So you would have less unassigned, unappropriated, even though it's assigned because it's a special district, but essentially, right, Kate? It's a mumbo jumbo there, but yeah.
Yeah, the entry that's shown is the budget entry, and then we'll have to do a balance sheet entry that decreases unappropriated and increases appropriated so that we can use it for the budget here at SW 500, 9,000.
Because the revenue doesn't really exist for the state aid, so that's why I just said
Yes, exactly.
clear that everybody understands that.
Okay.
Yeah, different source of revenue.
Okay. Any other questions from the peanut gallery on that one? All right. The deputy town clerk position appropriation. Do we have that? Okay, so we're doing not an hourly, just a straight up salary on that one.
No, so this is just creating the budget line and funding the budget line so that when she goes to hire by hour, that there's money
That's
to
available.
pay.
Got it.
Yeah, this also won't account for, and again, the benefits section wasn't figured out. We'll know more once we get to that point and hire somebody. There may have to be an adjustment on the benefit side too,
Okay. And that's
possibly.
coming from the general fund.
Correct.
Got it. Okay. All right, number 39, encumbering funds from 22 to 23. So these are all unspent from last year, and we're giving them a home for this year, correct?
They are they're either outstanding or partially spent POs from last year.
So they're open purchase orders
Mhm.
that are carrying forward. Looks like 194,000 total, right?
Mhm.
Go to the next page.
Okay. Okay, so we've got the lines there. The sidewalk map and report, is that going into the sidewalk capital project?
Doesn't look like it is currently.
No, that's not, that, the report is not part of the capital project. Reports are not part of capital projects. This is a
Okay.
planning map
Okay.
report. So the sidewalk capital project, you'd have to go back and look at the specifics of it, but that's for the actual capital construction.
Okay. Okay.
Although I see that is hitting a 200 account.
Yeah, that's a capital, equip. I'm not familiar with what the 3189 line is.
That's where it was budgeted for 2022. We had talked about doing a couple different projects for Uptown, I believe. And then ultimately the board chose the sidewalk map and report through resolution. So we can certainly move it through a different account line than the one it was on before, but that's just where the funds were budgeted in 2022.
It should probably just be a 400 instead of 200, just so, especially like John and Dave, I know you're new, you're probably wondering what I'm talking about. This 200, that .200 in that account line designation designates it as a capital project per the New York State Comptroller's Office versus a contractual obligation, like for instance, these .400s right here. And so this really, because it's a report, it's more realistically, it's more of a contractual obligation, so it should be a .400. So we could keep it the same account number, that doesn't matter, 3189.400. We'll just have to do a budget adjustment for it, that's all.
We didn't, and back up the third row down, we didn't spend money already. I thought we fully spent out for the design of the new transfer station. We didn't spend that all?
No,
I
or
don't
we
think
haven't
so.
been billed for it.
Right,
Oh, got it.
yeah.
That makes more sense then.
I know they're doing seeker for that transfer station, right? We'll probably have that in February for,
Because I know they've been working, I mean, they just probably, you're right, they probably haven't built this far, because that, I can't imagine we didn't spend that. It's just not paid yet, got it. Okay. All right, cool. Bank reconciliations, there's a 40.
Yeah, so the town board members, you're more than welcome to come in and look at my receipt binders for the year 2022. And this is just acknowledgement that you have reviewed them.
And those are different from what we're seeing every month, how?
It's
just
it's
summary?
what the books are, it has the daily receipt, the daily reports, and then the monthly reports, and then the bank reconciliations, kind of like I'll combine them month by month, so.
So what you see are the town accounts,
Okay,
town clerk, town justice accounts, completely separate.
okay,
They account for themselves. They have to account for themselves, just both each of the town justices and the town clerk. And then periodically, monthly, they will provide revenue back to the town. So you would see it as a revenue coming in, but they have their own books.
so it's dog licenses, marriage licenses.
I mean, it's that monthly report
It's
that,
in- yeah.
that's attached to the agenda, but it's also all the supporting documentation behind that monthly report,
Okay,
along with the bank statements.
and you have that once a year at the beginning of the year then,
What?
the binder review thing. and
That,
there's a-
yeah, it has to happen.
Yeah.
In the, yeah, the beginning of every year. Correct.
Okay. Oh, Kim's spending money again. For you.
I am spending money again. That's just every month. So-
That's why you get to sit at the big boy
That's
table,
right.
Jim. For 41.
This was promoted by the Uptown project, I'm sorry, the uptown,
Business
bid.
improvement.
Thank you. But it's also, we looked at different pieces of equipment to what would work best overall for the park system. And instead of just having a piece of equipment just to clean sidewalks that would normally just then sit for the summer, this utility vehicle also has hydraulics in the front and back and is heated and air conditioned for year-round use. And we could put a specific commercial plate on to drive around the town with it, because it travels about 30 miles an hour. And it will also use all of our current Bobcat attachments.
So you can put in an attachment for a snow.
Pretty much
blower
any
or a
attachment we
plow or
own.
whatever you want.
This machine can operate also.
It's small enough to do sidewalks.
Yeah, it's small to do sidewalks. And it also includes attachments of a sander, a snow blower, a V-plow, and a broom to go with it, to depend on what issue of sidewalks we're maintaining, we can then clear them.
How would we utilize it in the summer? Like what sort of?
In the summertime, the guys could use it to tow a trailer up to, like, say, Ononda.
Okay,
With a dump trailer, 'cause there's rear hydraulics on it, they can use that to
Okay.
tow it. They could use it to grind brush. They can use it to,
It's really for like a lot of the landscape
landscaping.
maintenance, trail maintenance.
say they want to use the, I call it the scarifier, but it's a drum that rolls and that grinds up
yeah.
the stone, it relays it again,
Mhm.
that's full of weeds,
Mhm.
and grades it back out again. Oh,
Could we-
you could use it for watering. We can tow a trailer with it for watering, put taking it back for watering.
Can we also plow like the paths at our house?
We could, as long as it's on blacktop, yeah.
Okay.
I
It
wouldn't
has to be on
suggest, I
blacktop,
don't
but
suggest
yeah, 'cause
getting
the
off.
Rocks are gonna be screwed.
Not only that, but you're gonna rut the trail if
Yeah.
it's a little soft at the side,
Sandy.
especially at our house, because it's always typically wet
Wet.
the winter down there. But yes,
But the
we
paved
can,
parts
we
anyway.
can pave parts, certainly use that for clearing those areas also.
And is that highway would have to drive that or can Parks?
No,
drive
Parks
it?
will drive it.
Park,
Mhm.
okay, so is that, and that's coming out of where?
Well, so that's the
bid,
problem.
okay.
Everything that you guys just talked about
Is not in the bid?
is not in the bid.
Yeah.
So that tells me that the bid shouldn't be paying for it.
Okay,
They're paying, because everything you guys just talked about is a benefit to theoretically all the residents of the town, not just the business improvement district. So that means if we're gonna charge it the highway as a highway expense, this resolution's gotta be redone. Or we've got to, and then when we use it in the bid can be charged
mhm.
from highway, or vice versa. The bid can own it and then charge parks, charge highway, all the other stuff. Whichever way you guys wanna do it, but the residents or the property owners that are paying the tax in the business improvement district should not be paying for a benefit that's going to
Mhm.
the rest of the
That's why I
town.
was wondering where
Okay.
where do we anticipate using it the
So the
majority?
primary use would be to clear the sidewalks on 332 that we're required to take care of. And then Blue Heron Park would be another place that we would be using it.
Is Blue Heron still in
Yep,
the bid?
that's part of the bid, that's fine, but it's all the other stuff.
Mhm.
Okay, so you think we?
Jim,
Yes, Terry.
where will this be housed in the wintertime? Will it be left, like at the fire station for plowing, the streets up in that area? Or is it gonna be housed at the highway department or?
I've talked to Frank from the fire chief, and he says we can have the room we need to store it at Station 2 to maintain the sidewalks on 332.
I mean, it sounds like in the wintertime, its primary use is going to be, clearing sidewalks and such, so. But I agree with what Doug was saying. If it's gonna be used all over the town, then it's not strictly a bid expense, so.
Well, it could be one or the other. Either the bid can buy it and rent it to the town, or the town can buy it and rent it to the
Sure,
bid,
right.
so we just have to figure out which one makes more sense, so.
I mean, if we're housing it in the bid, then, I mean, if that's its home base, then it makes sense for the bid to purchase and bill back the other way. If we house it at the town sheds, then we buy it out of the general fund and then the highway fund, and then the build the bid for when we use it.
Yeah,
Since it's staying in the fire hall, I would say bid purchase it. And we just we track and the bid bills back the various departments that use it.
So for insurance purposes and everything else, does it make sense for the bid to be the owner of it, or I mean, do they own, can they own property?
Yeah, the big can, but it doesn't matter. That's all falls under the town's general stuff. But the way that we had originally planned for this is the bid to purchase it.
Mhm.
There's more work to do. I mean, like, this resolution technically doesn't even have an account that it's hitting, but
Right.
it's the thought process being, when we did the 23 budget, is we would do a bond anticipation note at some point in 2023 for all the improvements that need to be done in the bid, including the streetlights
Yeah.
on 332, this piece of equipment and everything, and then that will be funded by the business improvement district.
Okay.
So yes, we can do this. That's not a problem. It's
It's
just we'll have to
93,000,
track.
are they gonna have that in there?
Yeah, I think it was 212,000 in revenue for 23, but again, we're gonna have to do a bond anticipation note to do the streetlights and everything, and so we'll just wrap it all in together. And then they'll pay the principal and interest payments on the bond anticipation note for this year, and then going forward in future budgets.
Okay. Whatever, I'm happy with whatever makes sense to the majority. Do you have any thoughts on it, John?
I agree that it should be part of the bid.
Alright, cool. We should try to have a similar conversation on Monday as well, just so that that's clear to taxpayers.
So does the resolution need to be reviewed?
I just leave it for now, but we still have to, we need to, at some point, Jared, and we were gonna do it last year, and then I got COVID, but we need to
Mhm.
have an Uptown Business Improvement District organizational meeting. The town board, once you're elected, you're also the board of directors for the Uptown Business Improvement District, so.
What we could do is just allow this to be purchased, and then we'll figure out which line it's coming from.
Yeah,
It's not gonna
let's
be
just get
here
the-
like
yeah.
tomorrow or anything.
So I was
So-
thinking, was this just a preliminary resolution so that we could allow the,
Start to,
the
Yeah.
board?
mhm.
what is the lead time? Jim?
Isn't it 3 to 4 months?
3 to 4 months, maybe longer. I mean,
So yeah, we just need to start the process now, because the bid could be full blown by the time we get it. Could have buildings galore, depending on how long it takes. So Doug, don't plan on getting COVID then anytime in the next couple months. Can you keep that off your calendar,
Yeah.
everyone? So we can have that meeting.
Try real hard.
Don't schedule it.
Do our best. Okay.
this resolution is for the 23 budget that the town board approved to purchase a second Parks truck for the Parks Department.
Yeah, I think we already talked about that pretty much.
Is that in the pipeline, Jim? Is that on its way?
It's, it's like we discussed in October to get it ordered, and I didn't have a price at that time, but now I have a price to go with the order that we've already
Okay.
placed.
And fingers crossed.
Yes,
We get it this year.
well, they give you a nice little letter that says, you may have ordered your truck, but you may not see it.
Yeah.
So
That's nice.
that's nice.
46, the budget development policy, it's not you, Jim.
Oh, okay.
I don't know, is that ready to go at this point? Are we still working on that?
Well, just remember that whenever you present something new, it needs to be brought in front of the public a minimum of 24, I think it's 24 hours.
Yeah.
Prior to the meeting, so if there's something new coming out, it needs to be published. I'm trying not to work on weekends, but by Friday, so.
I just wasn't sure if this was going to be done.
So we met it. So we're close. We went and made a few more edits to it. And we can make the edits at the meeting, or we can move it. I mean, if we make the edits at the meeting, it's not too crazy. And I think that's something that could be done fairly easily. Doug, what are your thoughts on, based on our conversation?
At the 30th meeting?
Yeah,
So the way it's presented right now, I don't think it's adoptable in its current format, the way it's attached to the agenda. So, I mean, you guys, as the town board, you can certainly talk through it on the 30th and make whatever changes, you know, you wanna make. That's really up to you guys as the board. You guys set the policy, give the direction. But I wouldn't adopt it. I wouldn't adopt this resolution with the attachment that's attached to the agenda. I think that.
no, because the attachment's been potentially changed and edited and clarified.
Well, that being said, begs the question for me, do we want to brainstorm and talk about this at this meeting, or do we want to do that at the town board meeting? Because I have some questions about it.
You mean the 28th, the meeting on the 28th or the 30th,
30th,
or right now?
or right now, that's my question. Do we want to do it right now or at the 30th? On the 30th.
I don't mind. It depends when people have time and are available to discuss that. So I don't mind if you want to do some of it now. Or it doesn't really matter to me.
How does everybody else feel about it?
We can spend some time, if we spend some time now and we get it to where everybody's comfortable with it, then we can move forward and we could bring those. We could amend it at the 30th and approve it with the amended changes.
Well, then let's start talking about it. What do you got?
Well, throughout the budget development policy, it references and/or the budget officer, the town manager and/or the budget officer. And operationally, as well as responsibility-wise, I have a hard time with having two coaches on a football team or two managers on a baseball team. At the end of the day, someone, I believe, should be held accountable and responsible for the roles and responsibilities that were outlined on this development policy. So if something goes wrong, something's incorrect, something's misappropriated, who does the board call out?
So let's
Or the budget officer?
let's talk about, let's go through this, and there's some changes that we had discussed and see if those Doug and I had discussed and see if those changes clarify your questions, John.
Okay, Jared.
So let's go to policy statement F. And that would remove the town manager, and it would just be budget officer. So that would strike town manager, and that would be budget practices, that would be budget officer. If we go to the budget preparation timeline, that would strike town manager, and that would read budget officer, the budget preparation timeline, as would the second reference to both in that paragraph. So that paragraph would read budget officer for both, as would the next paragraph where it says the town manager and/or budget officer shall cause for the proposed budget. That would read budget officer. And then when we get into budget monitoring, that technically, as far as the reports, the quarterly reports, that's the obligation of the supervisor. So that would strike the town manager and/or the budget officer, and that would be supervisor, because those are the reports that are in the agendas that are produced and prepared. The next line where you have both, where it says town manager and/or budget officer for transfers less than 5,000, that would strike budget officer, and that would just be town manager. Then the next line where you see budget officer, that would just read town manager, so budget officer would be stricken from that. And then the one below that would just read town manager, budget officer would be stricken. And then the last one where it says manager and/or budget officer for the final with the reports for appropriated reserve and unassigned fund balance. Both of those would be stricken and replaced with supervisor. Because that is, that is the requirement of that position. So any comments on that page? And that clarifies kind of that's the only one, but that clarifies. That should help clarify things as far as the budget development and as far as the day-to-day, and should eliminate the nebulous kind of gray areas that you were referring to, John.
I have a question.
Terry.
The question is, why are we making a change at all? I mean, what's driving this?
Well, by statute and by, as statute and the obligation of the ability of the supervisor to name a budget officer as part of the process and as part of my thinking through it and looking at these changes, it's important to have, in my mind, multiple people involved in the process. We always talk about having a deep bench. We always talking about having, people that cross-training and the ability to, have people who are cross-trained and have the ability to do these different things. I just feel it very important to be in there as part of that process and have part of that process fall to the supervisor as the elected position in the town. So that was the impetus of going, going that route.
Terry,
It just seems to me that over the past few years, the town manager has developed a system and a methodology for creating, the annual budget and a 5-year look ahead. And if it ain't broke, why fix it?
Terry,
And
the town officer and the town manager are not the same person. That's the change this year, so.
Right.
I understand that.
So with that,
Why?
right. So with that discussion, I don't see much changing with that because I think we have a great format and I think we have a great system in place. It's just, again, the ability to have more hands and more people trained in that. I just feel strongly that it's something that needs to be done, and it will give us a broader bench, and it'll give us people with more experience with that part of the process.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Who's going to be doing all the work? Is all the work still going to be done by the town manager?
Well, this lays that out, I guess, because what are you referring to by all the work? I mean,
Assembling all the data, doing all the, shall we say, accounting type work, pulling in all the numbers from special districts, from all the various, districts that we have within the town, all the look ahead on salaries and positions and, all of those
right. So you're
things
referencing.
that go into the creation of that.
So you're okay. So you're referencing specifically the development process.
Right.
My plan is to be the driving force with that. I'm grateful that I have Doug to ask and use it as that resource there. But my plan is to develop that, have meetings with departments, department heads, vendors, all of that, and be a bigger player in that part of the process.
That's
So you'll be doing all the work then.
That's the part that concerns me right there, Jared. I mean, you're starting now to talk about operations and how the operational structure of the town functions. If you're starting to interject yourself in meeting with department heads and or vendors, if an issue comes up and Jim's got questions relative to something that happens in the highway department or monies that need to be allocated for the highway department, the question comes up, who does he talk to?
Are you talking about budget allocation as far as the budget development process, which would happen when the budget is developed, or are you talking about transfers throughout the year? Because it says in here, as far as the day-to-day, that Doug still maintains the day-to-day. Any transfers in excess of 5,000 are presented to the town manager, approved by the town board. So those, you know, if any department head has a question, if any department head needs a transfer, any department head needs those adjustments, those day-to-day operational things, it's pretty clear in here that those remain. And they have one person to go to on that, and that person is Doug with that day-to-day.
Well, then I just heard you say that you were gonna go and interject yourself in conversations with
In the development process.
vendors or,
Correct. During the development process, developing the budget for the year, meeting with department heads, meeting with vendors who provide us with materials. It's during that budget development process that would take place. It's not in, February meeting with Jim, meeting with the Bobcat or meeting with anything like that. That's not part of that's the day-to-day that would be happening.
They have meetings during the development process with each of the department heads where Jim or
I
anybody
understand
comes
that.
up with what they would like for the 24
I
budget.
understand that.
And then the budget officer, which had been Doug, but the budget officer helps figure out how much of that they can have allocated to them for 24, so.
So the vendor part, like, are you gonna tell us who we're buying from?
Have you been told now who you can buy from and who you can't buy from?
No,
Then no.
okay. I think you're taking out a lot. Quickly that I'm not sure how you're going to do all this with working full-time and try to understand the next year. I think just this speaking, I think, causes confusion amongst the staff. Who's going to report to who and who's going to do what?
Yeah,
Can you be more specific?
Do I speak to Doug if I have a line that's over budget, or do I speak to Jared that then has to go to Doug? Or those are some of the questions I have.
So if a line is over budget, it would require a transfer over $5,000 potentially to bring it in line budget, to bring it in line. Would that be correct?
Correct.
So then, like it says, if any transfer crossing from one fund and another, an amount excess of $5,000 shall be presented to the town manager and then to the town board in the form of a resolution.
Okay.
Just like it is now.
I mean, it's a change. There is a change, but I think this lays it out pretty well, and there's not this clears up and clarifies that gray area. I mean, if we're looking for and want gray area and everything, we're gonna find it, but if clearly it states any transfer over that to bring a budget line into compliance, that's a budget transfer. And that would be a day-to-day item that would be happening, and it says in the policy that you would go to the town manager for that.
It sounds like you're trying to make it where the budget officer is really just developing next year's budget as
Correct,
opposed to anything else.
correct.
Okay. Do we have any more questions on it or anything else we want, or you
Well,
want to add on
okay.
30?
From a strategic viewpoint, I think that the town manager has, provided an excellent look forward, and based on years of experience, based on the personal makeup, life experiences, and I don't see how that is going to be replaced by simply naming another person budget officer. That's all I have to say.
Right.
and I agree with Terry. I mean, it's taken years to develop this system. And I think that the system has been working to the benefit of the community for the last 4 or 5 years. And I understand your desire to be more involved, Jared, and I compliment that and I applaud that. But I think there's other ways for you to become more involved and insert yourself into the process rather than taking that responsibility. I mean, this is, in my mind, a delegation of authority that you give to the town manager. That doesn't mean that you're not still responsible for it and that you shouldn't be interactive and communicating on a regular basis with the town manager about the budget and how it's working. And, but I think to actually insert yourself into that process that has been successful for the last few years, I don't know if it's appropriate.
And I respect both of those thoughts, you know, both Terry and John's. I think you mentioned the process, and there, we do have a good process, and this doesn't mean that it will change. This doesn't mean that
Oh, it is changing. Absolutely changing.
the process that we have in place, that we have the process, and so you're saying the process and the systems that we have in place will automatically change.
It is changing. By virtue of this document, it's changing.
So the structure is changing. The budget development process that we have in place,
It's changing.
I disagree with that. If we go through and we have this process that has been created and that we can continue to follow, a good process should be able to have, if you have one person, a process should be something that, if it's set up and it's functioning well, which I believe this is, somebody else can come in and it might not be to the same, you know, might not have the same life experiences that Terry referenced, that one person doing it had. But if the process is in place and the procedures are in place, somebody else should be able to step in and perform that same function using that process that has been created and has been in place in the town of Canandaigua.
Well, that argument, I think, was tested with the New England Patriots. Everybody said that Tom Brady, you know, was a product of the process. Well, as soon as Tom Brady left the Patriots, the process no longer functioned. And when Tom Brady went to Tampa Bay Buccaneers, it showed that it wasn't a function of the process, but a function of the individual. So and I think that holds true in business as well as it holds true in team sports. And I equate the functioning of the town to the functioning of business and the functioning of team sports. You are changing the process by inserting yourself into the conversations and the budget development, as opposed to the town manager who works with these individuals every single day, day in and day out. And when they have issues now, they know who to go to. And I think that response that they have received from the town manager has been very favorable. I think we just heard that from the highway superintendent saying that, you know, it's been working, and he's concerned now about whether it's going to continue to work. And I share that from a taxpayer standpoint as well as a board member standpoint.
Well, hopefully I'm more Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre than Jimmy Garoppolo and Tom Brady.
All right,
So
and-
if I'm hearing everything right, are the people that are developing the budget going to change? Are the people that actually sit down at the table and develop the budget going to change?
Yes.
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 So how
That's
explain that
already
to me.
been
So
said,
Well, it hasn't. I haven't said anything. There's a couple things I just want to weigh in and make sure everybody understands. First of all, New York state law requires that the budget officer, whoever that is, that's appointed by the town supervisor, has to develop a budget calendar. That calendar is then produced ahead of time and then comes out. I would usually put it out by April or May, and those are available to anybody. I can only think of one time in the last 6 years that I've developed the budget that a town board member has attended those, and that was Terry. But it was announced last year. None of the town board members participated in those budget sessions last year. And those are available for you to do that. So to say that there's going to be greater involvement, it's BS. But anyway, so now the other thing that this does change is two things that I want to make you aware of. the town board, some towns don't have budget development policies, but the town board at the town of Canandaigua established this budget development policy specifically because the town board at the time, as we were coming off of the New York State Comptroller's audit, said, hey, we want somebody who has the training, who has the experience. You know, I have a master's degree in public administration, specifically focused on finance, public accounting, and all that stuff, gone through all those courses, involved in helping lead that process. So that's why they created this budget development policy. But again, that is a town board decision, not a budget officer decision in terms of who actually does these particular things. The other thing that I just want to make you all aware that I now need to change in all the town board members, all the elected officials have view-only access in our financial accounting system. I now have to go in and change so that the budget officer has the ability to go in and edit the town's finances. That we've never done that before. So these are changes that are, again, it's not good, it's not bad, it's just changes. I just want to make sure everybody's aware of it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so as a Bills fan, I'm going to stop discussions about Tom Brady and possibly move on. And I mean, I would suggest that if town board members have suggestions on how to write this in a different manner before next week's meeting, that we bring that on the 30th.
I don't think it's a matter of rewriting it. I think Terry, in my position, is similar. Why does it need to change? It's been working
Exactly.
effectively for the last 4 or 5 years. Why?
Something needs to be defined because we have the budget officer and the town manager are two different people right now. So we need to at least define something about that because they're two different people. That's already happened. So
That could be rescinded. It
but
doesn't,
it's
it can be
state
changed.
law that the supervisor can appoint a budget officer.
That is
Absolutely.
correct.
We did, so that's.
Absolutely.
That can't be changed. Do we
Yes,
have-
but,
It would be changed. I mean, that's up to Jared, but whether he wants to or not, but, and that doesn't mean that the process, because the budget officer can delegate those responsibilities to the town manager, and then he can follow up on a regular basis with the town manager. And if he's not happy with what the town manager is doing relative to budget and finance, he can take the appropriate actions, which would be recommending a change to the town board.
I agree.
Okey doke. All right,
I have one question regarding the agenda in general. What happened to the amendments to the remote participation policy?
in this agenda,
No, from the January 9th, that remote participation policy and the town board rules of procedures were both continued to the January 30th agenda, and Chris Nadler was supposed to make amendments to both.
So Chris Nadler provided Jared and I with this revised budget development policy as well as the revised rules of procedure that's attached to the agenda. The rules of procedure that's attached to the agenda has a section where I believe he has inserted something relative to the remote
Yeah.
participation policy, but he did not amend the remote participation policy as was directed by the town board. So the town board's gonna have to make a decision to either adopt the standing remote participation policy that we've had,
As is.
acknowledge as is, or make some sort of amendment to it.
So I think the main change with that is miscellaneous 24. Where it's in the rules of procedure, and that says when a board member must be necessarily absent or will be participating in a meeting by remote participation. In accordance with the town board's remote participation policy, that board member must so inform the chair and the town clerk as soon as reasonably possible. So I think that's the question, if that allows us to keep the remote participation policy as is, and this supersedes that, and then we don't need to change the remote policy.
I believe that was the town attorney's intent, but he would have to verify that, so that the remote participation policy would be left as is, and then adding this section to that.
So does that help clarify your question, Gene? We can find out,
Well,
we can,
it's not on the agenda. So,
Right.
If you're going to amend the remote participation policy or adopt it as is,
Technically,
That's-
because the town board hasn't done anything, the 22 remote participation policy is still in effect. Same with the rules of procedure, right? So it's,
Okay.
the town board needs to give us direction if they want to amend it or adopt it. as
Exactly,
is.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay,
I think it's just as easy, leave it as is and just amend this one.
Yeah.
It's my opinion.
okay, back to resos that have something to do with the finance committee. Do we have any questions on 49, 50, or 51, which are new positions?
I don't have it in front of me. Could you go back to,
So
that's green.
49 is the appointment of an assistant assessor, 50 is the full-time parks, appointment of full-time parks laborer, and 51 is appointment of a part-time clerk in the highway and water department.
The assistant assessor is not a financial change, it's just a title change. The
Okay,
full-time parks labor is a budgeted expense for 23, and then the part-time clerk is also a budgeted expense for 23.
okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
If no questions on that, then the Onondaga Park the cabins purchase, I haven't had a chance to review that section yet. But did anybody have any questions on that, or we just want to chat about that on Monday?
What number?
Attachment 14, number 50, reso number 53.
How much is that, the 57,750, is that for one cabin or is it
That is for one cabin, yes.
one cabin? Okay, thank you.
And it's the same thing, right? There's like a 6-month lead time, so this is
Correct.
just getting the order in and then
Yep.
we get it in the fall.
So hang on, let's see. It's got plumbing, kitchen, wood cabinets, 2 burner stoves, sink, microwave, fridge, bathroom, shower, vanity, toilet. And this is for our new area that we're building up.
Correct. Yep.
Got it. Ceiling fan, 1 queen bed, 2 bunk beds, and a futon or mattress or similar. Is all that included? Is the
Fully
furniture?
furnished.
It is?
Yes.
Okay. Didn't get a chance to go through it all yet, so. Okay. Do we have a estimation for the cost for plumbing and electricity up to that area?
No, and reason why we don't, I don't think we necessarily know exactly where it's going yet.
Okay.
Okay, so it's gonna go on the hill.
Yeah.
We haven't gotten that far.
Sorry. Okay, cool, just wondering. All right, the appraisal consultant for the Uptown Form-Based Code District, number 54. Questions on that one at all?
So this would be something new and different. GAR, G-A-R, they do have experience helping municipalities with valuations for uptown form-based code, or for form-based code, not uptown, for form-based code in general, working with some other municipalities. This is probably more of an ongoing, this is less about the current reval, more about future contracting with them as as you continue to work into 23 and 24 on valuations as land changes hand and new improvements are done in uptown to help the assessor come up with the educated values and the values of the parcels due to specifically the form-based code zoning because it's so unique. Sorry.
So is that,
This is not specifically for the reval.
it's not,
It really doesn't have anything at all to do with the reval, because the reval is really dependent on the valuations as of 7/1/22. And so this would be really realistically more for going ahead forward as you start to prepare for the 7/1/24 final tax rolls. So it really doesn't have anything at all to do with the reval.
so it's trying to make sure that they're properly assessed for sale prices, or what is the goal here?
So form-based code is very unique, right? And so what we saw is immediately after the adoption of the form-based code, when properties started changing hands, they started changing hands at a higher rate. And there's all kinds of
Higher
different things.
value or higher?
Sales, higher
Yeah.
rate sales. The sale price. What they have experience in doing is working with other municipalities relative to those sales and what is potential in helping establish parameters relative to, or models, basically based on form-based code specifically and what the valuations are. And so what they would be doing is working generally as supporting consultant for the assessor as the assessor continues to move forward in looking at parcels. When a parcel changes hand, determining the value of it, because it's not just the sale price. It's not, that doesn't work like that. And so it's whatever that valuation, that assessed value should be placed relative to the parcel. That is a factor. The sale is a parcel, is a factor. But then you have a lot of situations where the property, and we're already seeing it, the land isn't going to change hands. Something is going to be built, but it's not going to change hands. And they have experience working with that, right? And so they'll be able to help the assessor on a consulting basis put those valuations. And so those valuations in specifically the Uptown area, townwide, but in particular Uptown, that's going to have to just be an ongoing evaluation as things change and new CFOs are issued, new things come online, where they're just almost every year they're looking at those parcels.
And we didn't have to do an RFP for that.
We did an RFP.
We did, okay.
Yeah, we did an RFP.
Good.
And we got 0 response to the RFP, and then they came in after the fact. So,
Okay, great. I think that's the last one we've got in here. Unless you want to bring anything up about the bills or anything, Jim.
No. No.
Any other thoughts for the good of the order on finance?
I don't know if you had asked me to put together something, which I did put together
Yeah.
a presentation relative to finances and fund balance, if you want to go through it today, or
We might have to do it on Saturday. Just because I gotta leave in 5 minutes, but I don't know.
or just next month, finance meeting.
I'd like to see it for Saturday, so that we've got a better idea what's going on, but
So that, Jared, I mean, you'd have to make a call on that, because I think,
We can
Yeah.
get if we can get copies of that sent out to everybody,
sure.
that'd be great.
Yeah,
How
I think it
long?
would be easier to talk through it so you guys can see it, but I can give you copies, that's fine.
I mean, at least the numbers, and then we can talk through it and see, because it might drive some of the discussion.
Yeah.
It might drive some of the discussion or some of the goals on Saturday that people have.
could we maybe do that in the beginning on Saturday, Jared?
Sure.
You're gonna be there Saturday?
I'll be observing.
Okay, would you be?
We can start with if Doug, you have that, instead of presenting it now, if we can do a 5-minute presentation on that Saturday, at 5 or 10 or whatever, if Adeline, if you would like that, we can do that. And then we have an overview of where those numbers are for everyone.
Yes, I would like that personally. Also, and going forward, I've chatted a little with Jess and Doug. I'd like to have an agenda and minutes for the finance committee meetings, pretty basic minutes. And be trying to have some meetings ahead of time just to see if we can have some more general finance related issues we can also discuss in the finance committee meetings, so. Our next finance meeting should be the 9th of February at 10:45, unless that doesn't work for anybody, but that's when we should be. So. Okay. We all good to close the meeting now? Sounds like a plan.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
I think, see you guys.
Bye.